Welcome to today's live. My name is Zipporah Kingsbury from ZipporahIntimacy.com. And for those of you who have yet to know me or explore my work, I am a somatic intimacy and relationship educator, as well as a breathwork therapist. And I work with adults who are wanting to gain deeper understanding and skills when it comes to having more emotional intimacy in your life. Maybe you find it hard to express your vulnerable needs, to communicate boundaries clearly and concisely, and to feel inner peace amidst everyday struggle, especially in today's world. So today is a very special day because I love these conversations. So today is a client spotlight. We have a very special guest, Jim, and Jim is here with us after working with me over actually a 90-day period, but also partaking in the Mastery of Connection Redefining Intimacy Program. But what I love mostly about these conversations is the intimacy of them, because it is it's what I stand for. So when I invited Jim on this call, he's just like, what is it all about? And I'm just like, we're just going to have a conversation, and why there's going to be specific questions. I I just invite our dialogue to go where it wants to go, to for us both, Jim and I, to be curious, and for you as the viewer, depending on where you're listening in, please go ahead and comment if you have questions, if you can relate to what Jim and I are talking about. And most importantly, as well as, maybe this will inspire you in some way. Maybe this will help you realize you're not alone in some of your processes, even though we're on different ships, so to speak, right? We are having different experiences. We're all kind of in the same ocean. And so that's my intent for this conversation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jim. And I'm just going to hand it over. And Jim, what I'd love for us to start with is share a little bit about where you're from. I know where you're living, but where are you from? A little bit about your history, maybe your work history, where you're living, and let's start there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Um, let's see. My background is that I grew up in Southern California. Spent my whole life in California till 2 years ago. Actually grew up next to Disneyland. Lived a couple miles away. I never went to Disneyland as a little kid, but lived right there, which was funny. But um, I went to school in San Diego. Have an engineering degree in mechanical engineering in the aerospace field. I worked more than 35 years in the aerospace field, missiles, rockets, airplanes, all of that. Kind of devoted my life to doing that. Probably to the exception of living a well-rounded life, if you will. My friends through all of that were people at work, and that's pretty much all I had. I was devoted to the hardware side of things, building and testing and breaking things and blowing things up, which is fun. But yeah, that kind of left out the other side of me, and I moved to Sacramento. Worked there for 15 years or so, and then the company closed, and I was sent to LA. And I told them I would live in LA for 18 months because I really don't like LA. It's way too crowded for me. Finished that and came to Bend, where my son was, and am now here doing a little bit of consulting work, trying to help people out with some startup companies, but finding myself lacking, the 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day of people at work that I would call my friends. And so, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that and for being on our call and hearing your busy life, living in a really very overstimulated place of LA,
Yeah.
and with your focus being most of your work. And I know people and those listening can probably relate of when you work so many hours and love what you do,
Yeah.
that becomes the primary relationship, and likely around it maybe all the other relationships kind of take second or fall away a bit, and now you're in Bend which is a quieter place. And I know that. And I'm aware of, your intentions when you started this work with Mastery of Connection, Redefining Intimacy. And I want to go there because of what you mentioned about work being the primary relationship.
Sure.
And knowing, like, I know, but I want you to share here for our viewers is, what were you wanting, realizing that you were no longer working that busy life,
Right.
doing what you love? And what were you wanting when you met me, when you came into the program? What drew you to that?
So what I knew or figured out that I wanted just soon after leaving the really fast paced life of the aerospace world was some connection with people, and I really didn't know how to do that. And outside of a work environment, having a connection with people in a work environment and leading teams of people is a completely different thing than having social interactions with them at the at the coffee shop, or trying to meet and say hi to people. And what I noticed, I a year and a half worth of trying to connect with people, and it was very difficult, if not impossible, for me, because at least I realized that I was acting like a work person, and people who aren't in that world don't respond to that. And so I needed to, or wanted to connect with people. That was and we've been through that, and talked through some of that, and that the subtle and not so subtle things that go on, interactions with people, are completely different things in a working environment and a non-working environment. And you're helping me with that. Absolutely.
You mentioned connection,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to repeat some of the things that you share, and then I'm going to ask probably more questions. Is the connection piece, and how in your world I'm getting that communication in the work environment. There was a habit formed around how I communicate in my work environment that led to maybe an awkwardness of, how do I communicate in the personal world? Is that true?
That's exactly right. Yes. Noticed that people just don't respond the way, because at least in the working world I was in, there was always a task to focus on. And when you're just going to go sit down with somebody and try to have a conversation, um, there isn't a task to focus on other than trying to enjoy somebody's company. And that was not part of my
Yes.
world.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing, even in the work environment, there was almost like a shell put around of a lack of vulnerability.
Absolutely, that was that
Yeah.
way. Even as a young, growing up child, the things I did, were there was that shell. You didn't want to show that at work. That was a bad thing to do. At least you were
Yeah.
told that was a bad thing to do. And so, if you're trying to lead people, it was, hey, you don't want to show that.
Yeah.
But that isn't how you connect with people generally,
Yeah.
right?
And I'm sure our viewers can relate. I'm sure, or people listening in can relate to this. I know I can. And I know in this day and age, there's many of us, including myself, that we're bringing in a different view of interacting and communicating in the work environment. It's right. It's how can we bring in more accountability, vulnerability.
Right.
I talked on a piece yesterday about how to bring different forms of communication into the work environment, and it was learning how to compassionately listen,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to compassionately and honestly share, accountability and vulnerability. And I think those are four things that aren't typically taught in the corporate world. And
Oh,
I'm getting like that wasn't your experience.
right.
And so, what were some of your, I think how I want to word this question. What were some of your, let's talk about more concise personal challenges, because I know we've worked with through a lot
Yeah.
together.
Right.
And
Right.
so let's kind of pinpoint and share a few of your personal relationship challenges around, I know you wanted more connection. I know you wanted more community. I know you wanted real, like authentic relationships.
Right.
And regarding those bullet points, what were some of the ahas and instantaneous things you started becoming aware of, if it comes to you, while we worked together, as we started to unpack some of your core like habits and emotional loops?
The first one that kind of comes to mind is maybe something that just kind of came up was the softening and speaking to people in a not kind of in I go back to work in my working world. It's you wind up being a little bit aggressive about doing things, because I was the get it done person, and not everybody wants to sit down with a cup of coffee and be aggressively talked to, or your family doesn't want to be talked to that way. You'd like to be able to share and instead of request something, ask for permission for things, and just softening of that whole tone. And I see how that maybe pushed people away, and we're working on trying to work through that. It's an ingrained thing for me, because it's been such a long time doing that might take it a little bit of time to get that right, but we're doing it. So
we are doing it. And I want to, I acknowledge you, because what viewers don't realize is how much you have shifted and changed. Like, I've seen it, because I see you every week, and I hear your home discovery process. So I just want to take this moment in acknowledging you for all the ways that you are sharing more vulnerably. I'm just going to say this because this is what I see. You are starting to share your voice. You are starting to set boundaries. You are asking for more of what you need, and recognizing your value. I mean, am I on point? Like, is this true?
That absolutely, and what comes to mind is that in the past, it was never about me. It was about getting something done. It was about moving forward, which everybody loved. Even when I was little and going to school, and my family, it was all about doing things and getting things accomplished. And it wasn't really personal. How do I feel, or what do I need? It was get that done. Oh, and corporations love that, right? You don't have any real feelings. Just do what you need to do and get it done, and we like that. But that's not really what I need. And so, yeah, I've seen a big shift, although it seems real subtle to me. But I acknowledge that moving here and doing this has made a huge change. And my family are like, "Who are you? What?" So, yeah.
Yeah, what you've shared with me a few times, that your family's like, you've never done that before. You've
Exactly.
never, where's my dad, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think that's important. What I know to be true is, when we're making small steps, like in small increments, is that's when the change actually becomes sustainable. And that's one of the intentional pieces of the Mastery of Connection Redefining Intimacy course. Is they're done. I often say, like Mr. Miyagi, we've talked about this,
Right.
wax on, wax off, because
Right.
if we go in small enough increments, it doesn't shock the system into fear or panic that leads to sabotage. It more so, oh, there's subtle changes. Then all of a sudden it's like, what just happened? I'm a different person. My voice is louder. I'm more confident. I have more self-esteem with emotional intimacy. And so I want to slip that piece in there for the listeners. So tell me, if you can, what do you think? And take your time. Is, if we're talking about intrinsic benefits, like internal, like shifting the way you feel or your relationship to yourself and your body, what do you think a few intrinsic benefits have been working in this program that you recognize? That's a big question.
I absolutely recognize that and I remember telling you this after the first couple of meetings. It was like, wow, for the whole afternoon, I felt calm and assured, and like there wasn't something wrong with what I was doing. And that has just lasted longer each time we do this. And so those internal calm feelings of feeling good, and I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right thing and I'm not left out on the sidelines, just lasts longer and better. And if that can continue, that's marvelous. And it has. It's gone from just noticing that, oh, for a couple hours in the afternoon I felt really, really good after one of our meetings. And now it's like, wow, for most of the week it feels that way. And so that's a really nice thing. So yeah.
So that's become more sustainable, you're
Yeah.
noticing.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a big deal for you based on, I know some of the areas we've spoke about and worked on is the feeling left out or having
Yeah.
to do something. So having that go completely 180-degree turnaround.
Yeah. That is a big deal, because it was always in the past, you were connected through some project or something, and when that project or that thing wasn't happening, I felt left out of the rest of the social world, because I didn't play in that world. I played in the work world. And so that's getting to feel a lot better. Our breath work, and noticing my body, again, it was really, I never paid attention to all the little details of muscle tightness and just shells I built around myself. And the work we've done has made me pay attention to that, which is a marvelous thing. I've stopped now in mid conversation with folks and going, what am I really feeling here? Why is my body all tense? So yeah.
Wow, huge. So if someone takes anything away from this conversation, that is a really big piece that you just said is, what am I feeling? What is my body feeling right now? Like why, while I'm communicating something, and what do I need? What do I need? Why am I constricted?
Right.
Do I need to pause? And thank you for sharing that piece because that's
Yeah.
a huge takeaway. Um, how do you feel that this everything you're sharing, the intrinsic benefits and the shift in your feeling,
Mhm.
has impacted the extrinsic areas of your life? What are some extrinsic benefits you're noticing?
Definitely, slowing down conversations, and paying attention, being more present, and realizing when things are not feeling right, to maybe just slow down for a second and see what I need, and am I really paying attention to somebody else? Yeah, it's being present. It's slowing down and being present. I would not do that very much in the world, except it would be focused on work. And now it's focused on being present and talking to people and getting to know people. And yeah.
So when you're more present in your communications, I'm going to unpack this a little bit, just like we do when we're in our sessions. So when you feel more present in your communications, what does that give you in your communications? Like we've talked about this just a few hours ago. Yes.
it Yeah, what did we talk about? It it gives me clarity to understand what I'm feeling, and what somebody's how somebody else is maybe feeling in that situation. I've had some of those with family and friends, of uh, had a long conversation with somebody who we both thought we were understanding each other, and we weren't. And we slowed that down and talked through what each of us were feeling and needing, and got to the end of that, and were understood each other, which was the amazing thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how did you feel after that? Did you feel closer to the person? Did you feel more connected?
Oh, absolutely. And I they followed up with phone calls and a couple emails saying, wow, thank you for doing that. It We'll find a way to work together. This was kind of a half work, half friendship kind of situation, and they were grateful that we both took the time. Took us the better part of 45 minutes to get all through that, but we kept talking it through and being present there, listening. And yeah, I think we're moving forward and feeling good about how that's going. And it wouldn't have. it was a kind of a tense situation. So
Yeah.
I think that got resolved by being really present and listening. So,
Yeah. And asking the right questions.
yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I'm taking away from what you just shared is that you are actually building a more solid quality relationship with this friend.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And
Which, yeah,
go ahead.
which there was a misunderstanding I've known this person here in Bend for better part of a year, and there was misunderstanding for a good part of that until you and I started working together, and I realized what I needed to do, and you and I talked through what needed to be done there and how to be present and do that, and it worked very nicely. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So could you say that you're starting to feel a new sense of like confidence in your some of your relationships? That's I'm witnessing that, but do you feel a
Yeah,
little bit more confidence and
yeah, absolutely. I will say that I for a very long time felt very confident in the business world, and I could do that without even thinking about it, and that's what it was. But now in the my personal world, yeah, this is taking on the feeling of that feeling I had of being confident in my other world from the past. So yeah, it's getting there. Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah,
I'm celebrating you. Woo!
thank
It's
you.
very
Yeah.
exciting. So, um, to start to wrap up our conversation, I want to share that Jim has mentioned breath. He's also mentioned presence a lot. And one of the ways that I work with the mastery of connection, redefining intimacy, whether it's one on one or in a group setting, is it's what we call somatic intimacy. And so while there is skill building that we're here talking about and methodologies on how to communicate for greater success and closer connection in relationships, is there's also an internal process, and that is where we work with those trauma loops or old emotional patterning that's actually stored in the body memory. And we work with body-based practices like breath, like tracking the sensations in the body, tracking the responses, like Jim mentioned, the tensions and the tightness and the armoring. And so what I have found in this work, that there is an importance to working with both in order to create, again, that sustainable change. Jim, do you want to add anything else to that based on your experience for the close of our call today? Because you were on the other end of that.
I think you said that perfectly. Recently the body awareness is something that I've never paid attention to, and it just amazes me that all the little subtle things that happen there. The breath work has been I don't know. I find it amazing. We've done some of that I thought lasted all of 5 minutes, and it was more than an hour of that. And like, where did we go? We went to another place, and it definitely has helped. So yeah, I think you could hit all that right on the head. Very nice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to say as we prepare to close? Any closing words for our viewers? Anyone who may be in a similar experience that you're in around, their whole life was focused on work and now they're wanting to learn how to have greater relationships and intimate connections in their life?
I think this was recommended to me by a friend who worked with you, and she's a good friend, and I I thank her every day for this. It's helped. It's a great thing. I think you do a wonderful job of doing this. I highly recommend it. I think it's a very worthwhile thing, and I'm I'm guessing there are probably the other thing is we talked about this just a teeny bit before, and I have with my friend of these are skills that and things that I don't know. I wish I knew 30 years ago. I wish this was taught in some as a younger person. I maybe would have, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Thank you for being here. And for
thank
those
you.
listening in, um, I just want to thank you for being here. And we have an upcoming Mastery of Connection Redefining Intimacy 10-week course that starts in just a few days in early January. It is early January. I forget it's January 1st.
Yeah, already.
So we have a group course that is about to kick off. And I also work one-on-one with people over a 90-day period, which I know, which is one of Jim's experiences. But wherever you're at in your life, if you feel like, you know what, I could use some support, I want you to know that I'm here. It would be an honor to be in your part of your support team, cheerleading you on in the bleachers, in the world of your relationships, in the world of your own health in your body. So if you feel inclined, please go ahead and reach out. You can find me at zipporaintimacy.com. And the Redefining Intimacy course can also be found through that website. If you have further questions, just send me a private message wherever you're at. If you're going to see me on YouTube, comment, give me a word of what's up in your life. And I think we will close on that. So thank you, Jim, for your
Thank
time,
you.
your heart, and your presence today. And we will see you all soon. Be well.
Thanks.